can see like 5 minutes.
Okay, it's 5 minutes we're giving for.
No, I mean like just to wait for like other like visitors, people that are working, they're like trying to find their way to the zone. So we just give them like 5 minutes. Okay, you have to.
Yes.
Close out.
Okay, bye.
Sorry.
Sorry? Kevin? Victoria. Nice to meet you. Bye. Yeah, to my colleagues and joining us. We are co-president. Around. I should also join us.
Specifically on that forcing, like the man perhaps is coming. He told me earlier I had a session at 11. Perhaps you're going to join us later.
There's another
Yeah,
side.
not me in this section. The man I'm supposed to present. I'm not sure of his name, but maybe it's coming up later. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm the one who told me about it. Yeah, that's great. I can just literally just so if you know about what they appreciate. That's why I say, we're all learning. We're all learning. I didn't know there more of presentation. I was thinking of the conventional, like campus papers and one of it just discuss your abstract and normal presentation. No, I'm trying to see if I can even compress my discourse into PowerPoint because I didn't know. Yeah, sounds good.
it's okay. Yeah. Hi everyone, good morning. So welcome to the session of folklore, where Kira and orality in transition. So it's 11 a.m. already and it's 11:06. You have to start the session, then allow like people that are present in person to go ahead and start their presentation. But if anyone like wants to join, they can come later on because we have to start the session. So I'm going to be acting because we don't have chair available. So I'm going to act in that capacity as chair. The meantime, perhaps the chair might show up later on. So the first presenter we have here, many times is available in person, is Victoria Okoye. Okay, she go first.
Your name is first. My co-presenter is not here. Okay. It is not here. Teresa and Adejoke. We're doing a semiotic analysis of narrative.
So are you set? Are you ready?
I'm waiting for my co-presenter.
Okay, I think she's first.
Yeah, thank you.
You can still there.
So before she started, how much time is allotted for each presentation?
Depends on the availability, the number of people that are present.
Okay.
So now you have just 2 people. But I guess you have one person. Maybe it's time to find his way to this home. But he told me that I was supposed to be in the session. So yeah, if I take around like 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
Okay, good.
So like based on like I'm gonna reduce it. Should we have like other presenters that are present? So I have to reduce it to allow other things. Yeah, I'm not sure that's okay. Oh.
Yeah. I have also put about she won't be happy. She's already she has to take a class at Yamatin. Years ago. And she was like, nah, okay, we are not fair, we're not fair, we are fair.
If you have to do anything now,
Should we the mics? Ah. Is this so?
Yeah. So when is that time? Yeah. You can still get I'm not getting started on so.
Oh. Is it better if we turn the lights off? Yes. It's not. You have data.
Yeah, I'm actually my partner data.
No, actually, are you sending the PowerPoint?
Yeah. I know. So we don't get Okay, since we don't have any password. Then like then this one's slide up. So we don't walk it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Morning. So my name is Victoria.
What's the mean next? And what's the mean?
Yes, I'll tell you this. So my name is Victoria. I'm a lecturer in Black Geographies at the University of Edinburgh, in the UK. I'm a US born Igbo diasporan. And so I'll be talking a bit today about new research that I am just starting. And so it's an opportunity for me to sort of share my ideas, get lots of your constructive feedback,
questions, suggestions, etc. So as I said, I situate myself in Black geographies, which attends to the ways that Black peoples, and for me, this is peoples across the African continent and in the African diasporas, use, imagine, and create space, including, for example, spatial interventions and site-specific practices. So thinking with artistic practices, cultural practices. This orientation also shapes how I'm undertaking the work that I'll be presenting today. So what I'll be talking about is the interdisciplinary project where I attempt to weave together creative and qualitative methods to think with Igbo masquerade in Imo State, Nigeria, as a Black poetic and world-making spatial practice. So in this presentation, I'll be explaining a bit what I mean by this, a bit about my methodology and some of the materials that I'm beginning to think with. Next. So many of us maybe already know this quotation, right? I think this is very much popularized by Chinua Achebe. It's the idea that the world, so he says, and those of you who speak Igbo know I'll be struggling a bit with my intonation, but it's a language that I'm learning. So it is said, one of the things that is said about Igbo proverbs, and we know this already, is that proverbs are the palm oil with which words are spoken, right? So there are ways for us to think the world. So there's this Igbo proverb that says, "Uwa mo ona wego." No. It's another dialect with the idea that the world is a dancing mask or a dancing masquerade. To understand the masquerade, you cannot stand still. You cannot stand in one place. So for me, this is a really generative way about thinking about how do we understand the world, both from the concept of the masquerade, but also this proverb for me emphasizes that there are multiple options through which one can employ to accomplish an objective, that you cannot understand the world from just one perspective. So the proverb highlights the concept and the practice of masquerade as a vital spatial practice and an analytical frame, and it asserts the epistemic demand of interdisciplinarity to understand our fluid, evolving, even dancing world. So this is where the project departs from, thinking from this proverb. But I also really generatively want to approach this work from a Black feminist epistemological framework, where I'm trying to understand my own knowledge of the world, situated in my own Igbo diasporic experience as a woman of African heritage through embodied sensory knowing, culturally attuned to Igbo and Igbo diaspora knowledges, and ways of being in a world shaped through experiences of including enslavement, including colonialism, both in the continent and in its diasporas. Next, please. So as we know, maybe not just only from the particularities of Igbo masquerade, but from masquerade generally, we know that the masquerade is grounded in indigenous cultural conceptions of the coexistence between human and spiritual worlds. That masquerade performers are always elaborately adorned in costumes and masks that hide their human identity. They embody and they invoke ancestral spirits. They entertain and they mingle with human audiences through dance, through music, through theater, etc. There are also, as we know, various types of masquerade, ranging from the more entertaining forms to those invoking spirits. So scholars have emphasized masquerades in terms of their materiality, aesthetics, their performative dimensions, also masquerades in terms of their traditional roles in line with social justice, community cohesion, as well as and their role in political authority, but this declining political authority, particularly since the colonial encounter. Yet masquerades maintain and remain a powerful component of the culture as artistic performance and through its geographic expressions in material and poetic space, notably in poetry and drama. So as a Black geographer, that's me, whose work concerns space and place, I'm particularly interested to think with the Igbo masquerade as part of the long spiritual and cultural tradition of the Igbo people. We think about this through the spiritual traditions of Ordinala. We think about this through the cultural practices of Omenala as a fundamentally spatial practice, an orientation to the Igbo spatial world with generative contributions for how we might think space, place, and geography, not just within the Igbo context, but more widely. Next, please. Okay. So this is an aspect, the spatial dimensions and expressions of the masquerade is something that I'm particularly interested in. And I'm thinking about this through the lens of spatial poetics. And when we think about spatial poetics, we're thinking about the combination of space and poetics, right? So this is forms of expression that blend concepts, ideas, practices from spatial theory, so disciplines like geography, like architecture, even artistic practice, with poetry and written or oral literature and storytelling. It is the usage of these different poetic forms, such as storytelling, such as poetry, such as literature, such as song, to explore and reveal the ways that space, whether real or metaphorical, is represented, is constructed, is imagined and experienced. It also includes ways of even using languages, using words, using phrases, description, ways of writing, forms and structures of text or oralities to describe and evoke space, as well as how we understand space through textual languages like poetry, literature, etc. And these formats really highlight the creative dynamics of voice and presence and language. Next slide, please. So thank you so much. That's spatial poetics sort of generally. But again, I'm coming to this work as a Black geographer, as someone who's thinking about this global relation between African and African diasporas produced through the experience of enslavement and colonialism that have produced those of us being racialized as Black, right? And so when we think about Black, for me, this orients my attunement to Black spatial poetics in particular. And so for me, this is about articulating Black spatial experiences and including the histories, the practices, the possibilities, the ways of knowing our Black world, right? So this is an epistemological approach. It includes the cosmic, the mystical, even existential spatialities. So Ibi Tokun talks about these various spatialities, dynamics that are always inherent in, for example, African fiction. So Black spatial poetics is fundamental to the ways that Black peoples make and imagine space, drawing on these creative forms of expression that I've been talking about, right? And it's a form of Black aesthetics and thinking that embraces becoming, so an ever-present becoming, not a fixedness or fixity. It even embraces chaos, the unknown, opacity, so not Western rationality. And it reflects the unpredictability of the world and an inventiveness that we as Black people are always deploying, even in contexts where we have been marginalized or we have experienced enslavement and colonial traumas. So it's an important form through which Black peoples maintain cultural, emotional, spiritual vitality and creativity. Kevin Quarshie would talk about this as aliveness that resists and even transcends these forms of historical and contemporary trauma. Thank you. So for me, this shapes an attendance to thinking about, again, how do we think about spatial poetics and African spatial poetics together? And thinking particular in this in terms of a global Black spatial poetic. So then, yes. Am I doing on time? So this is just one of the things that I've been working through as I've been trying to make these connections. I've been reading a lot of work in these diverse sort of areas of knowledge, right? I've been reading, for example, Igbo academics who are talking about masquerades. I've been reading Black geographers, Black ecologies, as well individuals talking about spatial poetics and Black spatial poetics. And in particular, there's this article by the Jamaican scholar Alex Moulton, the South African scholar Nje Salo, where they talk about this poetics of place. And so they talk about the poetics of place are the veritable archive of consciousness, subaltern visions, insurgent spatial practices and knowledge that work to build not only material Black spaces, but socio-symbolic Black worlds. By poetics, Black geography scholars speak of the stories, recipes, food practices, musical traditions, poetry, and grounded theories that express and instantiate Black people's understandings and experiences of space, and as well as their placemaking and place-taking practices. So I'm interested inherently in, I have 5 minutes, okay. Next slide, please. So I'm really interested in how can I think with the poetics and the poetic expressions of the masquerade to think about ways of understanding space and place. And so quickly, I'll just say in terms of this, I'm leaning toward two particular ways that Black spatial poetics take form, right? One is in terms of the ways that we could look at how poetic language connects us to place and spatial experience. So this leads to things, how do we understand as we're reading particular texts, how can I think about how this is connoting or communicating particular perceptions of space that might link to emotions or cultural narratives, whether past or present experiences? And also the ways, importantly, that this allows us to think through and represent embodied and sensorial spatial experiences. Next slide. So that's the poetic. I think there's another one. All right. Go up. All right. Oh, okay. Yes. And then the other ways in terms of working with spatial poetic language in the ways that it literally represents geographic space. How can we read, for example, poetry, listen to songs in ways that they construct geographic space, right? And so this includes, for example, writing, storytelling, poetry that connotes real or imagined places using spatial language, for example, the ways that it links to landscapes or a built or natural environment, or even connects to memory or identity. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is all the work that I've been doing that leads me to these particular research questions, right?
Okay.
So first, how do the spatial and sensorial expressions of Igbo masquerade offer ways of knowing the everyday production of space? How does a Black spatial poetic approach offer ways of attuning to the spatial and sensorial dimensions of Igbo masquerade? And how do poetic representations of this masquerade contribute expanded understandings of Black spatial poetics? Next slide, please. So then I'll just talk a bit about these methods that I'm planning to use. So I'm really trying to look at using creative, qualitative methodology in this work. And so this involves, reading and listening to masquerade poetry and dramatic text, interviews with cultural and community leaders, as well as representatives and researchers, and then sensory ethnography of a particular masquerade festival. Next slide, please. We're almost there.
You can go ahead. I'm sorry, I have different questions. Yes.
Oh, okay. So then in terms, I think I'm just going to break these down a bit. So in terms of the first one, so this one, in terms of just reading and listening to Igbo masquerade poetry and dramatic text. Oh, there's me. So for me, this is drawing on the really rich traditions. If you look in the scholarship, there's a lot of really rich traditions in terms of scholarly engagements with the poetics of masquerades, where individuals are reading and critically analyzing poetry, drama, other forms of text. And for me, this is about reading these with an extended attention to space and place, the logic and aesthetics of the post-colonial Igbo world. And then to think with, for example, the scholar Kajitan Ihega, who has written about the aesthetics of the earth, to look at the ways in which these, for example, masquerade poetry reinforces and represents the ways that the linkages between African understandings of the entangled human and non-human lives, critically valuing other than human lives, for example, plants and animals, in relational positioning with humans. And then drawing on interviews, I mentioned interviews before. So undertaking interviews, semi-structured interviews, not just as a sort of, I have these list of questions that I want to ask, but really using these to reinforce and generate forms of storytelling. How can we draw on storytelling as ways of relating different knowledges and thinking about interviews as an inherently collaborative, the collaborative potential of producing knowledge together? And then finally, in terms of a sensory ethnography. So this is the idea of thinking with actually Oyeronke Oyewumi in her work, The Invention of Women, one of the things that she talks about is Yoruba world sense, this idea of displacing the emphasis on the visual and thinking with these other sensorial registers, right? And so I'm really interested in how to think with her ideas to decenter the visual, the often visual representations that we see of the masquerade, to prioritize other dimensions of the masquerade in terms of a world sense. She talks about world sense as a cultural logic sourced from language and oral tradition that we might use to map social orders. And I seek to extend this to the spatial. So this is about recognizing and privileging the embodied sensorial dimensions of ethnographic research to gain insight into the lived relationship between people, between practice and place. And here in particular, it means attending masquerades and drawing on, for example, especially the sound or the orality of the masquerade, the effective potential of the masquerade, its pre-personal intensity, its force that shapes experiences and actions as sort of environmental creation out of the masquerade, that allows me to think about how to document this ethnographically.
So 1 minute left.
Okay, yeah, this is the last part. So just this is what I sort of just wanted to talk about, is just to sort of present this very initial research and the ideas of designing it that I'm interested in. The next steps for this would actually be, I'm actually going to be going to the East next week. And so the idea is to source more Igbo language texts and poetry, arranging and undertaking interviews, and then to plan toward conducting a sensory ethnography, which would actually be in December of this year. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. So we have next, you have your partner, how are you ready to go?
She's not here yet, but can I go ahead?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Unless she'll be.
So our next presenter is Abijoke Olojede and Teresa Nwafo. So the title of the paper is a semiotic analysis of the narrative structure of Igbo and Yoruba folklore and songs like Teresa Nwafo. So we have to go ahead.
All right.
So do we have any other presenter here present?
Yeah, just 3 of them.
If there's another one, why not just take that one so that we make her the last presenter because of our Yoruba partner?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I quite agree with that.
I won't get stuck there anyway. I understand you. But I will have loved her to do that. She's on her way. She just took
Maybe we
it
should
out.
just take the.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Right, to make it yeah, thank you.
Waiting for connection.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So our next presenter is going to be okay. Right, Dr. So we have our next presenter for this panel, which is Dr. Solomon Oyewale, which paper is titled Onyikoshibebe, literary appraisal of a romantic poem among Lagos and Lagosians. So you have the floor here, 20 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Honestly.
Oyewale Adele Solomon is my name. I'm presenting Onyikoshibebe, which is a title of a poem written by Dimeji Jikovi, a literary appraisal of a romantic poem with Lagosian characters and setting. Lagos is very unique in many things. And that's why the saying, a quote for shoes, indicates that virtually everything is acceptable to go on in Lagos as a metropolitan city. The theme of romantic love has long been a subject attributed to the foreign world, which is not reflected in Yoruba literary text. However, some Yoruba authors, playwrights, poets have stood out for their bold and pragmatic ways by which they aptly portray romantic love, affairs between men and women in their creative works. So fictional Yoruba romantic writers like I.B. Thomas, Fagunwa Ishola, Adekwegba Onipede, to mention but a few, have actually reflected a romantic theme in their creative and literary works. However, the unique thing about Onyikoshibebe a poem written by Dimeji Ajikobi, is the fact that the paradigm shift and the new normal or new orientation that romantic love could be taken to another dimension. This study aims to look at how a Yoruba poet utilizes explicit content to convey a paradigm shift, construct a new normal identity beyond the stereotypes of the Yoruba cultural norms and values. A brief summary of the poem. The study focuses on a real-life story of a Lagosian socialite, widow, named Onyikon, who got married to a very prominent lawyer, successful one at that. But after their marriage, his untimely death made her to vow that she is no longer to get married again. And she went back to her father's house with much persuasion and encouragement. She tried to find love or give love a chance again. It's a narrative or epic poem that exemplifies this distinction between unconditional love and conditional relationship. The terms of romantic poem. Romantic poetry celebrates an individual's unique experiences and perspectives, allowing for personal expression and self-discovery. Well, our aim is to define and redefine romantic love in the modern Yoruba society in the context of ancient and modernity through cultural belief and poetic lens. So we want to also illustrate through a Yoruba written poetry on how Onyikon, a woman, achieved the unthinkable against societal ethical values in a romantic relationship with a new suitor after the demise of her love, first love. Established through the poem, the effect of modernization and how civilization had changed the narrative of romantic love in the modern Yoruba society. So the theoretical framework we want to use is romanticism, which emphasizes themes of nature, emotion, and imagination. Lagos as mega city with romantic setting. Lagos was a British colony in 1929. The strategic location of Lagos with diverse economic potential gave birth to an influx of people from different nationalities, even beyond the shore of Nigeria. So Western education also has impact on social life and influence of a typical Lagosian. When we are talking about Lagosian, it means the citizens and people who living within Lagos. So Onyikon and her late husband, Kufu Abayomi, a prominent lawyer, were among the crème de la crème in the then Lagos city. Women in poetic world of fantasy. The death of or passing of a loving husband naturally causes distress or depression with endless speculation. With this widening gap, sober reflection, emotional detachment, and a heavy burden to be shared with a listening ear who could fill in the gap of an irreparable loss. It is easier or conspicuous to see passionate lamentation or agonizing tears on the face of a bereaved woman than a bereaved man. So Onyikon is craving for intimate communication, emotional link, moral support, and so on and so forth. And this is well underscored by a Yoruba proverb, "Ìyàwó dùn lọ ṣègín, ọkọ tún mi gbé." With or without the demise of a woman's husband, she always wants to remain at that bridal time when she got married newly. So in a large year, Onyikon, in remembrance of her late husband, craved to the sweet memories, bonding, and open secret that they have shared in a romantic relationship. So romantic language, a peculiar characteristic of every woman, is more valuable than what man can imagine. I use some of the excerpts from the poem as projected, so I won't be able to do the analysis. Let me just quickly run through one of it. Onyikon kọjá sọ́dọ̀ Àjàṣà, ó lóun lọ́kọ mọ́, oníwá ń wá, ẹlẹ́yìn ń wá. oyin kankan gidi ó kọ̀ jálẹ̀ ó lóun tún lè ṣayẹ lòmíràn láyé mọ́ oyin kan ṣe bẹbẹ ó fòtítọ́ hàn ìgbà tó ṣe kí tó yìí bí bóyin kan sọ̀rọ̀ pé kó wá ẹlòmíràn fẹ́ ìgbà tó yá oyin kan gbà ó ṣe tán àti lọ́kọ lákọ̀tun ó gbà sájàṣá lẹ́nu lórí àdéhùn àjàṣá is her father ó lẹ́ni òun yóò bá fẹ́ gbọ́dọ̀ fẹ́ àbáyọ̀mí mọ́ òun. Meaning that whoever is going to be the new husband must marry her former husband. The concept of romantic love is a universal phenomenon. It is an erroneous impression to think that romantic love only exists in a particular part of the world, as we used to read in novels or watch in foreign films. So, however, the mode of expressing romantic love and the setting only differ from one culture to another. So Lagos is central to our understanding of modern concept of romantic relations between a man and a woman. The poetic characters all are Lagosian, who have new orientation of what romantic and love entails. Thus, it is very easy to relate together at different levels and at meeting points. So freedom of expression is very crucial in romantic love. It is all a matter of choice. According to Yoruba proverb, orúkọ tó bá wù ni là á jẹ́ lẹ́yìn odi. The new Sultan agreed to terms and conditions of Onyinka that he must bear the name of her former husband. The theme of romantic relationship, a principal woman like Onyinka knows her standard as a socialite in Lagos, and she wouldn't want to drop below her level at all. He went to a prominent legal luminary, a well-to-do and influential Abayomi. Her father, Ajasha Kutoyi, is also wealthy and happens to be the only daughter. While Johnson falls in love with a pretty dancer, Onyinka, the only child of her father, becomes so romantic to the point that he agreed and changed his identity. Heritage. What is in a name? There are quite a lot that are attached to a name that one can imagine. Your name is your identity. It's your legacy. It's your heritage. It's your trademark. It's your future. Yeah. According to Yoruba cultural belief, women are psychologists, truth seeker, and soothsayer in romantic relationship. While a man is deeply engrossed, looking at the physique of a potential lover in romantic relationship, a lady or a woman, conversely, is critically assessing the financial strength, not necessarily as a gold digger, physique, mental ability, academic qualification, etiquette, sincerity, family background, and so on and so forth. So, women with a tall order, as illustrated in the poem, are more than lovers in romantic relationship. Woman, a strong determining factor in romantic relationship. Woman determine who, why, when, what, where, which in romantic relationship. Who is to be dated, casually or romantically, both now and in the future. Why must she choose to date a particular guy or a man when she so wishes to give in a yes answer? What terms and conditions that apply? Onyinka is as a case study. Every woman has a taste. It only differs. Where to meet her in case the suitor is not only the wooer. Which of the suitor will eventually be the lucky man? Who eventually, after falling in love, will now be the pilots? A woman's romantic language. Woman romantic language are like human fingerprints. They are somewhat similar but greatly differ from one woman to another. Every lady or woman knows what works for her as a romantic language or identity. In case of Onyinka, companionship works for her. Hence, all she wants is for her to continually see the image of her late husband in another man. Today, some women in Nigeria are trademarking their parental names with a view to retaining their maiden name, possibly for connection or for whatsoever reason, family or possible connection for self-fulfillment. We have example for Lashadi Tinubu Ojo, Stella Damasus Aboden, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, Abike Dabiri Erewa, Toyin Saraki Ojora, and Feti Abalogun Williams, to mention but a few. Conclusion. It takes two to tango. A romantic relationship between a man and a woman involves on the part of both mutual agreement and understanding. The narrative poem of Onyeka is a cold conditionality and aesthetic dimension of romantic love as depicted in romantic poem. It is often difficult to sufficiently understand the depth of romantic love between a man and a woman. If we look to outside to the general public, look at the case of the France president, Macron, and marrying a former teacher. That's a typical example of romantic love. There is practically nothing wrong with a woman, I meant to write, expressing her love language for the sake of mutual understanding, her mental health, and long-lasting bonding relationship, as experienced by Onyeka. Nothing is too much, however, to be sacrificed or endured in a romantic relationship. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for that wonderful reflection and implementation. So we have our next presenter. Do you have a question?
She's not here, but can go on. I can start. Sorry, okay, thank you. Sorry, I may have to just give you some of the hard copy because okay. All right, you can just share. So we don't have the last then can have this. I'll use the sensor. Okay. Okay, good morning. My name is Teresa Wankwo. And my partner is Adejoke Olojede. Will be joining us soon. Our discourse is a semiotic analysis of the narrative structures of Igbo and Yoruba folklore and songs. That of Igbo is Gogogongo, is a familiar one, and for Yoruba is Aomoeru Joba, you know. Because when we did this discourse, we were trying to look at how our culture, how we can derive similarities from our culture, and how our culture, to a very large extent, was able to generate meaning from our values and also to kind of express our identity. So we are doing a semiotic analysis. Let me go to the abstract, after which I will go into the discussion. This study explores the cultural significance of Igbo and Yoruba folklore and songs, specifically Gogogongo and Aomwere Joba. Through this analysis, which is a semiotic analysis, this study reveals how these narratives convey complex themes of intelligence, community, and cultural identity, which are deeply ingrained in the fabric of both societies, that is the Igbo and Yoruba societies. The stories highlight the triumph of wit over brute force, reflecting societal values of wisdom, resourcefulness, and strategic thinking. So by examining the symbolic meanings embedded in this folklore and songs, this research provides a broad understanding of the cultural context in which they were created and passed down from generation to generation. This study further demonstrates how these narratives serve as vessels for cultural transmission, conveying important messages about community values, social norms, and what have you. Let me just go quickly to what we have here, the introduction. Now, what is semiotics? Because it is a semiotic analysis of these folklore and songs that we have in Igbo and Yoruba cultures. Now, semiotics is simply the study of signs, that meaning making is derived through signs. And the father of semiotics is Ferdinand de Saussure. In one of his papers published posthumously in 1967, which is the study of general linguistics. He kind of explained what science do or how science help to generate meaning. He brought about the concept of the signifier, no, three concepts: sign, signifier, and the signified, that every concept is a pointer towards the meaning of a sign being reflected. And he also further discussed three types of signs: the iconic sign, the indicical sign, and the symbolic sign. For the indicical sign, it does not, the sign is not seen in that particular concept, but it points to something else. For example, when you see a smoke, the meaning is not in that smoke, but the meaning is where the smoke is pointing to. That is the presence of a fire. The cry of a baby indicates or indexes the presence of a baby. A footprint on a maybe in a desert or something like that indicates the presence of what, a person and what have you. Then iconic signs are the representations of what they stand for. Then symbolic signs are arbitrary. And that is where we have some kind of discrepancies in meaning making, that sometimes some words are arbitrary. What they depict does not really express their meaning. For example, when you say dog, the word dog does not really express a domestic animal with four legs. It is the society or by convention that that meaning is given to that animal. So for him, signs are important, very important in meaning making. And that is why in our culture, we give or we pay credence to signs. Whatever things we transmit from generation to another, it is embedded on, I mean, in our values, in what we stand for. So when we produce those songs and stories, they are intentional. Choice of words are intentional, not just for the aesthetics, not just for the reading, but to pass meaning. And that meaning also is something that the society, appreciates and what have you. For example, the society appreciates wit over brute force, that is strength over brute force. The society appreciates wisdom over foolishness. And that is why many times, well, in our folklores, by the way, what are folklores? Folklores are stories that are, that are passed down from generation to another, and these stories, in these stories, the societal values, identity, and what have you are depicted in them. So when those meanings are expressed through these folklores, they are intentional so as to express the societal values and what have you. So we have Levi Strauss, 1969, who also said that these symbols, they kind of serve as vehicle for conveying cultural meaning. Moving forward, because I didn't make it a PowerPoint, let me not belabor us. Let me go to the narratives so that we can have a glimpse of it. Now, in the story of the tortoise and the elephant, actually that story is a rich historical narrative. It is, and it kind of express our cultural things, mostly set in pre-colonial Nigeria. It's a myth anyway, and so on, but they have been handed down from one generation to another, and the moral lessons, the values in them are what are still being expressed, and so on and so forth. So we say in the story of the tortoise and the elephant is a rich narrative of historical, social, and cultural themes. Set in pre-colonial Nigeria, the narrative reflects the vibrant culture and traditions of Igbo, achieving 1958, and Yoruba people, offering a glimpse into their way of life before colonialism. The story highlights societal values such as marriage, family, community, and ceremonies, underscoring their significance in African society. Now, let's look at the Igbo narrative of the elephant and the tortoise. The king's daughter, those days when you are from a royal family, you stand out and you do anything, you say whatever you say is authority. So she kept refusing suitors And when the king got tired, he said, what do you want exactly? And she said, okay, whoever that can get me an elephant, I will bring an elephant to the palace of the king, will eventually be my suitor. Now, the tortoise, being an animal of wit, heard it or overheard it and said, okay, he will do that. Then, because it is an Igbo society, there's what we call the Ofala festival. The Ofala festival is a revered festival. It's like a festival where it's not a coronation festival, but it's a festival that the king appears in his kingly regalia, and whatever he pronounces, if he pronounces blessing, blessing comes upon the people. If he pronounces curses, curses come upon the people. So it is a kind of reverse celebration. So when the tortoise thought of a trick to use in bringing down the elephant to the king's palace, he thought of the Ofala and said, okay, I will tell him that the king has made him the chairman of the coming Ofala festival, and that will kind of entice him. And that was what he did. He went to the elephant and said, my elephant, the king said, or you have been chosen, rather, you have been chosen to be and the elephant, because we're talking about wit versus what they call it, strength, and foolishness versus wisdom. In his foolish state, did not even think of, he doesn't know me, I never applied to be a chairman, so how come? He foolishly agreed and he followed the tortoise. Why they were going? Because the king's daughter's demand was the suitor must also ride on the elephant. The tortoise said, oh, my elephant, I am a slow animal. My pace is very slow. Please, can I hop onto your back? And the elephant said, why not? And he did that. As we were going, he remembered that, she said that the elephant must be brought in with a rope tied around his neck. So he said, oh, my elephant, the way you are moving, your movement is, can I please tie a rope on your neck and hold on to that rope so that I will not fall off you. You can see wit now in display. And the elephant said, no problem. And they move. Getting close to the king's palace, he started singing a popular song. We are familiar with that song. Name Zapata elephant was like, I don't understand. Name means my king, I have brought the elephant. It was not to be brought. Remember, he told the elephant he was to be the chairman of the occasion. And when he said that, elephant became, he said, one way, if you need batoni, as in tortoise, what did you say? What did you say you have brought? And quickly, being the smart tortoise, he said, no. Asimanaya chebenyi dubenyi. Or they can say, he said, no, I did not say I brought the elephant. I said the land, the earth, should guide and protect the elephant. And it now sounds as if I said I have brought the elephant. And now said, Mr. Elephant, don't be afraid. That is where the movement comes. He said, he said, be going, we are behind you. So the choice of words, they to a very large extent are intentionally woven to bring out meaning. The pace of the elephant are all signs that produce meaning in our cultural narratives. And in that of the Igbo, strength is depicted in the movement, the gracious movement of, the third and what have you. Then coming to the Yoruba narrative, I have 3 minutes left. Let me look at my friend's own. It's similar to, in that the Yoruba narrative, the king in the land of Agodo, the king, a well-off king, became ill, and it was said that for him to be well, the body parts of the elephant should be used to make concoction for him to drink, and he will become fine. And the tortoise also, came to their aid to say, okay, I know what to do. He just told them, dig a pit and cover it with a mat. I'll bring the elephant. And he made a binky, took to the elephant and deceived the elephant that that he has been made the king. Yes, in the Yoruba, yes, yes. That is why they are the elephant has been made king, and the song, the elephant will wear the crown of money. Okay, a ó pèrè ìjọba ẹ̀wẹ̀kú ẹ̀wẹ̀lẹ̀, a ó pèrè ìjọba èrè yóò dáadé owó ìwẹ̀kú ẹ̀wẹ̀lẹ̀. Now, in the Yoruba tradition, royalty, gate is also symbolized with their movement. In that of the Igbo is bam, boom, boom. But that of the Yoruba one, there is this slow movement. I hope you agree with me, you know. So also, you know, and so and so. So these meanings are all kind of woven to produce the intention of the narrator or the narrative, so to speak. So because of our time, sorry, she just came in and I don't change, okay? Because of our time, we'll discover that these stories are very interesting. They show the uniqueness of our culture, the beauty in our culture, that we don't just tell a story just for saying, we tell it because we believe in that story. It represents what we stand for. It expresses our identity and so on and so forth. Then in conclusion, please, we can go through later. Sorry, my time is up. Let me just go to the conclusion.
I think we can go like 4 to 5 minutes.
Oh.
We have like limited participants.
Okay.
So they have 30 minutes for like question and answer for without wasting ourselves.
Okay, come over here. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Okay. Okay, I want maybe you can use that.
Like 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Reality.
Okay, good morning, everyone. To save time, I will probably just speak to the paper. So, semiotics has helped us to realize that cultures are similar to the point of being similarly interwoven. What do we mean by this? One of the scholars, Locke, talked about there being a spectrum. You know, when we talk about features that show forth what semiotics is, we talk about binary opposition and all of that. So he talks about there being like a spectrum for cultures that we can fit cultures on. When you find a culture in one part of the world or maybe a part of Africa, if you look closely enough and study what the other culture is also saying, you find a similarity, not just in themes, but in how they say what they say. So for the folk tales we employed, the Gogobongo and Aomerinjoba in the Yoruba culture, we find that the story is practically the same, said in different languages, in different cultures, but the story is the same. So it talks about how the tortoise used his cunning ways to mislead the elephant until he fell into that trap. So it teaches the moral lesson, and then it talks about how the identity is portrayed, the identity of both cultures. In the Yoruba culture, for example, the king is a regal, royal person. There is no haste in its movement. And then, you know, when the song really synthesizes what these cultures push for. So you find that in the song, you have the strong portrayal of identity and so many other factors. So in the Yoruba one, for example, you find the song "How Mary Joba Ewe." So he is to be crowned the king, and then he is to take his time and move regularly. There's no rush. But at the end of the day, when it was too late, he realized that he had been misled, he had been tricked, and maybe he could have done better by finding out more about the information given to him before acting on it. So bottom line, we look at the beauty of the identities portrayed in the folktales, and then how these messages, these themes are given out. So we find that they are similar, so they are different. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful and amazing presentation. So we have about 30 minutes for question and answer. So if you have any questions for any of the presenters, and like you have a question for like start from the first presenter. So if you have a question for the first presenter, just put up your hand. Then when you are done with all the questions for the first presenter, we can move to the next presenter. We have about 30 minutes, so we can make our contributions and our questions as short and clear as possible. Thank you so much.
You have a
For
question.
the first presenter, question.
It's not a question, it's a contribution. Her topic, Warden Street-based Igbo masquerade through Black poetics. Once again, let's applaud her. It's novel, I must say. Yeah, yeah. Yes, and I appreciate the way she did the presentation and all the methodology employed to achieve the objective of the study. My only challenge, or the only challenge I see for her, it's not a challenge anyway, to make it a more interesting study. I think there is a need for you to, you say you are going to the East in December. Yeah, so there is a need for you to really stay with them, part of ethnography, yes, stay with them, understand the language very well, so that when you are expressing it, meaning will not be lost. Because if that one you say, I know if afraid a killing mouth, you murdered it, or where you said, where is that one now? The word is like a masquerade, all those, they are very weighty. So you have to really project it the way they are, else the meaning will be lost. But on the whole, honestly, I work see you after the yeah.
Yes, and fine.
Wow, it's a nice presentation since it's a work in progress. I think you may need to have a theory that can support your work. Yes, a theory, since you didn't mention anything like that in the course of your presentation. And again, there are some certain words that needs to be edited through I saw it when it's there, certain words like HR and the rest, like in the course of writing HR, I think HR many authors. So maybe if mistakenly write at R like that and like that, and each that is, for example, mistakenly write EX and the rest.
EX on purpose.
Yes, there's multiple of that. Maybe we need to be editing it or updating it from time to time, since it's work in progress. But it's a nice presentation, I must commend.
Any other question for her?
Yes.
My great presentation. So, but my experience in the Igbo community growing up and now, I see a lot of disparities between the masquerades those days and the ones these days. So to many of us, the first when I saw you talk about masquerade, the first thing I thought about was about ethics. Being a woman is supposed to be a problem. It's supposed to be because women are not supposed to be associated or come close to masquerade or even video them those days. But now a lot of these have changed. So now you can video many masquerades. You can, the other day in the streets, a masquerade, I was driving and then I stopped to buy fuel and then a masquerade came by and then he was asking me for money.
Yes.
And I said, you're asking a woman for money? And he said, madam, country hard, madam. And it's supposed to be spirits. So now, thinking about masquerades scholarly, it gets me worried personally. Like, how do we express this kind of changes that have occurred in our community? And it's continuous, You keep in Osaka, there was a viral video that went about, there were these masquerades that went about flogging people. It's called Orioma. It's very popular masquerade in Osaka. So masquerades flog generally. But these ones, they no longer care if you are on your own. They no longer care which day of the week. They just come into the streets. There was this particular one in that viral video. The lady was on a motorcycle. A nurse. She was on her uniform, driving to work. On a Monday morning or something. A nurse, a medical practitioner. And then the masquerade chased her. She ran through the bike away, was running, and then next thing she fell into the gutter. That was when the masquerade,
They even wanted to enter inside the data.
The people now started shouting
Yes,
like
yes.
people now say, "People know they wanted to enter the data to flog that to get us some." So I don't know if you already know about these changes in the community and what plans you have to take care of them. Yeah.
Ethical consideration.
Noted. Noted.
Any other question for her?
Yes, for Dr. Okoye, I noticed that you struggled to pronounce the Igbo words and sentences in your presentation. For me, it's a slippery and delicate curve. I'm wondering how you were able to do a research in a language that you are not you're not quite familiar with in terms of translation. I think your work is ethnographic, and you're likely to go to the field to gather materials. And how do you intend to navigate that very slippery curve? That's one. Two, I think I'm trying to figure out where your work fits in the trope, whether it's malnutrition, whether it's alienation, whether it's the idea of cultural limbo for you as a Black diaspora. Your interest in this work, I want to know which of the tropes that Black Africans and the diaspora try to discuss in their work or try to physically relate with. So those are my two questions for you. Okay.
We have 3 minutes to respond, so hold like 3 minutes, so can allow for that response to get home.
Okay, thank you for these comments and questions. I think I'll just say, on the one hand, I've mentioned I'm born in the US. For me, I have been traveling to the East since I was young. I have been learning the language for a while. My intonation is not the best. For me, research I never approach research as if I have some sort of expertise. For me, it's always a learning opportunity, not just in the sense of gathering information, but for me, it is a practice, I would say, of repair. My parents left after the war, right? And so it's been sort of difficult to sort of come and make these connections. So research offers me the opportunity to reconnect with a culture that when I was young, I was very much displaced from, right? I have a deep interest in thinking about space and place and the culture that I come from, right? I do not pretend to be an expert in Igbo culture. I don't represent that, but I do approach it as even diasporans can come and learn the culture. Yeah. Even diasporans can come and learn the language. In fact, we need to. Do you know what I mean? I've never presented this as if I was an expert. I come as someone who was learning, right? And so for me, this is an opportunity to do that. It is an opportunity to continue to build my language skills, which I've been doing for some time. It's an opportunity to use research to actually facilitate that, right? It's an opportunity to also engage with some of these cultural dynamics. You mentioned in terms of videotaping, as you notice in the presentation, I do not present any visual of the masquerade very deliberately, right? Because I'm thinking about, absolutely, there have been these differences. My father's from Anambra State. I've been to a lot of I've had the opportunity to go to a lot of masquerades where they sometimes encourage you to take photographs, to take videos. But I also think about my own ethics, not just about the masquerade, that person who is operating as a masquerade, who is potentially invoking the spirit, not just what they say is okay, but to think about, okay, from a cultural position, what are the ethics that I want to represent, right? Not just in terms of, and sort of as you were saying, this masquerade stops you at the street and asks for some money. And so you can give money, but I also think about, how do I want to operate ethically beyond sort of institutional ethics, beyond sort of what in that moment that person might be okay with? How do I want to engage with, I don't know, the deeper histories of the masquerade?
Yeah, sorry for cutting on you. Because of our time, so we have to allow other presenters to get question. Then we have more time to come back and the rest.
No, it's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So if you have questions for Dr. Solomon Oyewale, please develop your hand and Any question, contribution, or yeah, any comments?
Okay. Well done for a nice presentation, sir. I think some of your concepts that you use, such as romanticism, and the brief history of Lagos, it lacks in-text citations. Yes, it lacks citation. And the theme of the romantic relationship that you brought up, I think let us see the theme as in subheading each theme, then under each theme, then you explain, yes, not just brought it like that. And find it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, any other question for Solomon?
Mine is just to
Contribution.
a contribution to maybe spice your work. Maybe she also can text the text with all many neighbors are mad. Yes, so you can add to that so that you can also get some of the romantic language and what have you to spice up the work.
Doctor, thank you. Do you need your
Let me get it. Down.
I think I've seen that book before.
Okay.
Yellowish in color.
Oh man,
Yes, yeah,
because
So,
I okay, nearly all. I will get you the software before you go.
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other question for Solomon? We still have more time. Any other question? Contribution for Dr. Solomon?
By Damilare Kuku, yeah.
Damilare Kuku.
Thank you so much for the first question. So, Dr. Solomon, do you want to respond to any of the contribution or question?
Thank you for the question and the comment. I think I want to take it as more of comment and make it my work more robust. But let me say that it was an oversight. Your observation, you're very correct that the texts were not given any sub-areas. So, and I will definitely go through the text, the books that you recommended, Matt. And I'm sure it's going to be very useful for me. Then citation. Given the fact that just in mere presentation, that's why I didn't. In my introduction, I cited some works that are romantic. They have romantic themes. Even their names are the year of publications.
The introduction.
Yeah.
But
So
romanticism in general.
okay. That's area. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other question for Dr. Solomon?
Thank you.
Then you come to the last presenters. So if you have any question or contribution for the last presenters, so you can like put up your hands.
Okay.
That's it.
Right. Sorry. Well done for a very good presentation.
Thank you.
It starts from the abstract.
Okay.
I think in an academic work, the abstract shouldn't be italicized. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is that the new norm? Because formerly we're asked to italicize the abstract. Okay, yes, okay. So
Noted.
Noted. Okay.
Because of your presentation, you made mention that Ferdinand de Saussure is the father of semiotics. I think it's very wrong to say that, because what the father of the semiotics is an American philosopher who is Charles Peirce, who independently developed a comprehensive theory of science, symbols, etc. But de Saussure contributed a lot in linguistics, semiotics, and philosophy. Yes. And
Just
again,
note.
you tried in the in-text citations, you cited a lot in the course of the content. So your references, each entry, that is a title supposed to be in italics. You italicize the entries, the title. Check your references, the last page.
Past 7th edition?
Yes. 7th edition. Check your first entry. Things fall apart. Supposed to be in italics.
One.
The second
No,
entry.
it's a book. It's a book. It's a text. It's a text. That was why it was not italicized.
What of the second one?
No, because it's a book, it should be italicized.
It should be.
That's all.
It's because it's a book, that's why it should be italicized.
Just to enrich your work.
Okay.
This scholarly.
Okay.
The reverse is the case.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Don't take contribution.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Any other,
If
please?
you look at this work from the angle of comparative study or intertextuality,
Not comparative, intertextual. This
but what you the two folk tales, they are
okay.
they are the same, just from two different cultures. Okay, so and that's text speaking to text intertextuality.
Yes.
I'm wondering whether this is a comparative.
No, not a
study.
comparative. Not a comparative study.
Okay, and then your theory.
Yes.
What theory did you?
Semiotics under the lenses of Levi Strauss.
I would advise you can also do another paper and look at it from the angle of
Intertextuality. When you mentioned it, it struck, sir. Thank you. It struck. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you. A good presentation. I look at your references, I didn't see any citation on Yoruba folklore, and there are many texts on that. Adelu Babalola,
Are they
Olagoke Ojo, those are the Yoruba texts on folk tales. Adoboye Babalola, Olagoke Ojo, Apakini Apakiki. Yeah, volumes 1 and 2.
okay?
Also, you could get that story there. It's way. Àmọ́ Adébísí, Àkànó, is it Àkànó àmọ́ Adébísí? Yeah. Àkójọpọ̀ àlọ́ Ìjàpá.
Okay.
Adébáyọ̀. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, we get this.
Ìjàpá Tìrókò, Ọlágòkè Òjó, and so on and so forth.
If there is nothing else, I would like to make a suggestion, not just for fun. I don't know. She took time to tell us a story about Gogo Gombo, and I mean it's exciting. And then she was not able to go into such detail about the Yoruba aspect. I was wondering, yeah, now
Time constraint.
there's time.
Now there's time.
She was giving 4 minutes.
Back to Okoye. Okoye has not answered the second leg of my question.
Okay, for the folk tales from the Yoruba perspective,
Yes,
it's exactly the same story. The difference is the language employed. So the tortoise was supposed to get a prize for capturing the elephant, and then it devises the way. Of course, we all know the archetype with the very cunning big animal now. So he went and thought of how to, of course, the size, if you look at the size, the tortoise is a lot smaller in size than the elephant. So he had to rely on tricks. And so he thought of easiest way to get the elephant to the palace. And then he devised he being crowned a king. So in the process of getting, of course, when you want to enthrone the king, you don't just walk the king to the palace. There's a ceremony that surrounds it. So that's what the songs were emphasizing. And so in singing to take the elephant to the palace, we see the portrayal of culture and all of that. So how Mary Joba and the respondents give means how Mary Joba means we will crown the elephant. And the others respond just to encourage. Eriyo means the elephant will wear the crown of money, as in a very expensive wealth portraying crown. In the Yoruba culture, the king always has a royal staff. So there's the one he holds that he uses like a stepping stick, and then there's the one they carry behind the king, portraying the office. So the staff will be decorated with the traditional So it's just the song is just talking about the entire event created by the enthronement enthroning ceremony.
So then the tortoise was supposed to be put in a hole. The elephant was supposed to be put in a hole. I didn't get that.
Yeah, just the hole. And cover it with a mat.
And put a royal chair.
Like the place where the king, the throne,
Yes.
where the king was.
Yes, we see.
But before the throne, there is the pit that is covered. So the moment he steps on that, he goes into and he's captured. The trick.
And then this brings me to saying that I heard you repeatedly mentioning wheat. In connection with this story and this work, I think you should lay emphasis on the fact that the tortoise is a trickster.
Yeah, the trickster, yes.
So
She mentioned it.
Yes, I mentioned it. And that was why we use Strauss
We're looking at the similarities. So we're looking at it from the spectrum, but we look at it from that intertextuality.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you so much for those contributions. So we have like the last
My interest, I think, it's very very catch up with another document. My interest is in this masquerade question. Since the theme is continuity and discontinuity, it means in the olden days, nobody bothered to, dares go near a masquerade. Is that so we had? Or we read. And now it seems as if you can touch the masquerade.
you can even love them.
You know,
Yes.
There are so many things that have changed now, cultural. Like the example she was citing of the masquerade begging for money from a woman. Ordinarily, before they feel the woman is, too low on the hierarchy of important people in the community for them to beg money. But now they're hungry. So everybody gets
But they're supposed to be spirits.
spirits now.
Yes,
I
yes.
said a spirit the other day where a spirit was begging for money and he fell into the gutter and trying to cross the road to get the money somebody wanted to offer him. So spirits are now human beings.
like I actually have a question. I'm like moonlighting as both tech support and also participants. So I have a question for the last presenters. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. So I'm just curious to know about why you started with discussion, opinions like, okay, Levi Strauss, the semiotic and the symbols and signs. So I wonder why, because what you mentioned about you have some intelligent scholar you can anchor the beginning of your presentation, the sign and symbol, that just good folklore and stories, could halfway condense, I tend to privilege, this Western, distortion and Levi Strauss. I don't know if there are alternative scholar Africanists, can base your work on them rather than privileging this Levi Strauss. I'm very sure if you deeper, you can find some African scholar, probably not from Nigeria, but from other African countries, can anchor our theoretical leaning on them, kind of privileging or centering Western Levi Strauss. Yeah, but the notion climate, they are part of Koyonibo or thereabouts. And so that might probably extend your research and look for African scholars rather than privileging this Levi Strauss and a number of these African Western scholars. So that is my first note. For you have a few minutes for Dr. Okoye. So thank you so much for your wonderful presentation because you mentioned about masquerade and Black facial poetics. Yeah. So focus on the Eastern part and the Eastern masquerade. I know you could have the Yoruba masquerade. I'm not sure if you have masquerade in Hausa, but I would just love to get feedback from masquerade. Yeah, in masquerade. Yeah, you sound close to less from them. So I think this is
minority. Yeah, they have it.
Yes, okay.
The minorities have it in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't really grow up with the village like that, but I know that we do. We have no, we have certain maybe issues that you might want to resolve. Okay. And then there are special things we come out. If you go to there's a place called the Guru. I think that's usually every 2nd of January. It's like the festivity and
During festival.
yes, but all these things are gradually fading because people are accepted.
People are moving on.
People are losing their identities.
Have accepted Christianity.
Moving on.
But even in the eastern part of Nigeria, they do.
We have demonized these things.
Yes, they have. Yes, the nice.
Yeah.
The nice.
So
Demonized.
the night out.
Say demonized.
It's a nice,
The
yes,
nice.
to match with the
Masquerade on the church.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, thank you so much.
But sorry,
Like,
before
how? Yeah, I'll
because you
back to
mentioned-
my question. Like, just you can like probably you have people you can respond to them or just challenge. So my like just focusing on the question.
They don't.
One out each, one out. Then I just want to like conclude my question that you can respond to them. They can take from outside. So like just to engage ourselves more.
Exactly.
So my question is, well, are you the agency like maybe you have like Eastern of maybe you are like of Eastern like if you have Eastern extraction or origin, then perhaps that's why you're focusing on Eastern masquerade rather than like Western masquerade, or like since we have now that we have like masquerade in Kaduna or so. So like perhaps why justification of why you are focusing on spirit of masquerade in the East rather than like Western masquerade, like Yoruba masquerade. I usually like probably if you are from the East, just why the justification on why you are like focusing on Eastern masquerade, not all the masquerade in Nigeria. Right?
I don't think it's appropriate to sort of generalize across all the masquerade.
Yeah.
They're deep,
cool.
deep. It's massive.
It's cool.
My father's from Anambra State, my mom is from Imo State. I'm not from Lagos. I don't have family. I mean, okay, I do have an aunt in Ikeja, but like, it's not, this is, Yoruba culture is not my culture. House of Fulani culture, Edo culture, they're not my culture. Yeah, Nigeria is huge, and that's part of the richness and the beauty. But I think for me, I'm more interested in doing work in the place where my family comes from. But also sorry, just one thing, to your point of, I don't use a theory. I'm using, you can use a theoretical framework, or you can use a conceptual framework.
yes.
I'm using the conceptual framework of Black spatial poetics.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
I in fact think that East is so broad,
But it's also about, and so I'm not even doing all of it exactly.
so you just pinpoint.
Because you have to, right?
Mhm.
Because even in Imo State, my mom's from Imo State, that one is huge.
Mhm.
All of the diversity just within this,
Mhm.
as with every state in the country, right?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
So we have like 2 minutes left. Any other final thoughts? Parting words?
I really appreciated the way that I really appreciated these presentations. I really appreciated the way that you're thinking across different cultures, and not just to look for the differences, but to look for the similarities. I feel like I think it's very easy to look for the differences and pinpoint the differences. It's nice the way that you were sort of thinking across, and you were able to take two different folk tales from two different cultures that come from particular, like, situated ways of knowing the world, bring them together, and then to theorize that. I want to read this book that you're talking about. But it's in Yoruba, right?
It's written in English.
Okay. I was looking for it online. I didn't see it. Now I want to read about it.
Which one? The one I recommended, or the one she recommended?
What you were discussing in your Oyinkan? The one
It's
for
a
discussing.
Yoruba text.
Exactly. So I'm
When?
asking, is it possible to get it in English or another language? I'll find it.
We can discuss.
Well,
Let me have a number so I can send you the soft copy. I've got.
Can we
081.
take your presentation?
Yeah.
Is it our?
Ma, where do I?
She appreciates your.
081.
We appreciate her for it. It's really have.
I don't have paper.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. So I'll start the session. You can continue come outside because we have to end the session now. How about that?
Oh, you are in?
Yes,
Solomon.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your
Thank you.
views, for your contribution.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Dedication. Thank you so
Can I-
much. Start
can I
the
take
session
my-
now. They can
I want to make a
continue.
photocopy. I'm supposed to give you have it. I wanted to use it for free to you as a good man. So let me make a copy. You have a copy of
Yeah,
it.
Okay, I can give you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.